I'm happy to tell you that Luminar AI Update 3 is either available now or will be pretty soon because they haven't exactly confirmed the exact date, but they did say that I could talk to you about it. So that's what we're going to look at in today's video. What's new with Luminar AI Update 3? Hi, my name is William Beem. I'm a photographer just like you. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you'll see there are plenty of videos here about Luminar 4 and Luminar AI. I'm really a happy user of the product. As a note, I'm also an affiliate of the product, which means if you buy something later on because of my recommendation, I'll get a little bit of commission for that. But also I've got a coupon code. It's the same as my last name, Beem, B-E-E-M, and that will save you $10 on it. More than that, if you buy something using my coupon code, and send me the receipt, I will give you my course, Luminar AI Elements, for free. So I'll link to a video up here somewhere that'll explain everything in a little bit more detail, but it's pretty simple. You get your receipt. It'll have my coupon code down there at the bottom. You email it to me at support@williambeem.com, and then I will in turn give you Luminar AI Elements for free, which is a course that goes over all the different tools inside of Luminar AI and explains how to use them. But in this case, I want to let you know what's new with Luminar AI Update 3. So I'm going to start off giving you a little bit of information. I'm going to read from my notes here, and then we'll go ahead and look inside the program because there are a couple of things I want to demonstrate and show you how they work. The first thing, if you have one of the new M1 Max, and I presume the later with M1X or M2, whatever they're going to be, there is a version now of Luminar AI for M1 Max. It is a different software version than the regular Intel Mac. So when you download this, you need to make sure that you download the version for the Apple M1 series. So there's going to be three versions now. There's a Windows version, there's an Apple Intel version, which is the one we've always been using, and now there is a Luminar AI for M1 chips. So that's going to give you faster performance and better performance and all those things I don't have yet because I'm still working on an old Core i5 2014 iMac. But that's okay. One of these days, they'll cut out the product that I want, and I'll buy it. The thing about Luminar AI is it is really a fairly simple tool to use, but it's also fairly powerful. It helps communicators. It helps people do complex things without complex processes. So powerful doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be complex for you. And the reason is traditional photo editing is kind of slow and outdated. I use Photoshop quite a bit. And I can tell you that a lot of the processes I use in there are arcane and take a lot of time. I would much rather go into Luminar AI, and I do when I have something that Luminar AI does for me. I can smooth out skin there. I can do things very quickly and easily within a few seconds, a couple of minutes, that would take me a long time to do in Photoshop. And that just means that there's a lot of power here in Luminar AI. It doesn't mean AI is perfect, but it gets you most of the way. It's kind of like if you go into Lightroom or Photoshop and you hit the auto button, are you always saying that's exactly what I need, or do you tweak it a little bit? Well, I think the AI in Luminar is kind of the same thing. It gets you about 98% of the way there, and then you move a couple sliders and you're done. It's really very, very good that way. All right, so here's what we've got in Luminar AI version 1.3. There's some new functionality in there, particularly with Sky AI, and that's what I'm going to show you in the demo. This is, of course, a free update to anybody who already owns Luminar AI. If you're buying it for the first time, this is the version you'll start with, so you'll get all the performance features in here. There's a lot of performance improvements here. For example, Luminar AI launches much faster now. So there's some other tasks in there where I've seen that Luminar AI would drag just a little bit. Things are a bit snappier. Now, for me, on an older computer, that's really a nice benefit. It's not going to be as fast as the folks who've got the new M1 Max, but on my computer, any little performance enhancement is greatly appreciated. I'm kind of at the bottom end of the specs. There's a lot of customer feedback that went in here, and there's also some improvements based upon hardware updates, and the M1 support is part of that. For Windows users, if you have an iPhone, you know that new iPhones have this smaller file format called HEIC. Apple users of Luminar AI have been able to use that in the past. Windows users had to go through a conversion process. Good news for you folks, the Windows version of Luminar AI now supports HEIC photos without any conversion. So if you've got an iPhone and you want to drag them into your catalog, you're going to be just fine. You don't have to go through any conversion. Now, there are a couple of other improvements. This is where I can kind of start showing you some things. One is a change with the template experience, and the other one really is going to do a lot with Sky AI, how it handles reflections and colors in water. And I think you're going to really like what we show you as the improvements there. So why don't I go ahead and get over to that, and then I'll show you some of the new tools, or at least the updates to the tools. Okay, I'm going to start off with something like this as a landscape photo, and we're going to go into templates. And the first thing it does is you can see that it's thinking up here when this is kind of flashing back and forth, and then it selects for this photo. And as you change the photos, it's going to scan your photograph, and it's going to look and see what it suggests. This has been here for a while. The last update, Luminar AI Update 2, added these nice little arrows, which I think is a good thing. And it kind of makes it easy if you don't have a scroll touchpad or trackpad, and you just had a mouse that didn't scroll sideways, then you can just go ahead and scroll over this way. Towards the end of it, you're going to see that they've added marketplace items. And I do want to show you the marketplace. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But the idea here is there's more available to you than just what's available inside of the tool itself. So if you want to expand what your possibilities are, Skylum has a marketplace, and some of these things are at a cost. They also have a membership where you get some of these things for free, and then you get a discount to some of the things it costs. So we'll take a look at that. But in addition to that, if you scroll down here, you can see your favorites, which are the ones you've marked with a heart. Templates are the ones that you've created, as it says right here. And you can find the ones that you've purchased right here. And legacy templates are going to be from previous versions like Luminar 4. And I've never really bothered to load anything in there. But so you've got quick access to these different categories. But now as you scroll down also, you're going to see that you see all of the different types and genres of templates that are available to you. And you can kind of take a look and see what works. I would recommend doing that, if nothing else, just for seeing what's available. Even though this is, a shot in the trees, you might find something in the portrait section, or maybe even in the urban section, that gives a look that you like. So please experiment with this. Take advantage of it and see what you've got. It may be something that gives you a look that you didn't anticipate, and it may be something that you decide, that's just not for me. But there's a button here to get more templates. And now if we go back to the catalog and we select another photograph, so you can see where for this photo was, we started off, I think, here on scenery, which is a good one. Let's go ahead and pick this one, and we're going to go into templates. You'll notice that it's scanning over here. This is what's happening while it's scanning your photograph, and then it updates for this photo. So in other words, its recommendations are based upon each photo. That's why it takes a moment or so for it to scan. But you can see that we've got completely different ones. And then we've also got this scenery. So that one matched as well, too, but it wasn't the primary one. And then we've got this ultimate landscapes recommendation from the marketplace. So that's just all the quick changes you can see from the templates. All right, so let me go back to our catalog. I'm going to choose this photo, and we're going to go into edit. All right, before we get started, I wanted you to take a close look. You can see the light coming on her shoulder over here. You can see a highlight over here. But notice her face is kind of in shadow. When you're selecting a new sky, think about the direction of light and where it's coming from. If you get something where the sun is in the left corner or the right corner, and clearly the sun is coming from a direction that's outside of the camera frame, it's not going to give you the best look. So you got to be careful about where you select your sky based upon the light on your subject or your foreground. With that in mind, we're probably going to break those rules, but I just want to make sure I pointed that out to you. Think about that. Also think about, in this case, I've got a very bland sky. If you've got something over here with some detail in it, there's some stuff you might need to be able to kind of tune out. And the colors that are on your subject that's not going to change may not work with the sky that you have, but we can fix that to some extent also. So let me show you what we have. First thing I'm going to select something that does not belong here. Let's look at sunset with clouds. And I'm going to choose this big purple monster here. And it's going to take a moment and load that up. And there we go. So right off the bat, I noticed a couple of things. One, I noticed the horizon line isn't quite where I want. Two, I noticed that there's this little halo effect around her. We can fix these things. And that's part of what we get inside of our new Sky. It's not called Sky AI 2, but it really is kind of a revamped version of it. So the first thing I want to show you is that they've changed a few sliders, and they've changed the name of some sliders. On the top here where we have sky orientation, you can change the vertical position. So basically, if your horizon line isn't matching, we can shift some things around. So let's take a look. If we pull this to the left, you can see how it's moving this way. We pull it over to the right, you can see how it's moving up. Basically, this is the bottom of the photograph for that sky. We can make sure that just kind of comes down and matches where your actual horizon line is, or put it a little below if you want to. And that's because sometimes the AI isn't perfect, or sometimes your vision of what the sky should look like is different than what it actually looks like. One of the enhancements that were made here is it does a better job of recognizing the orientation of the sky, the fact that it's like, if is it leaning a certain way and is the reflection going a certain way. So I'm actually going to come down here to reflection. I'm going to turn this off for a moment. It starts at 50%, but I'm going to turn this off. So we're not dealing with that. We just want to deal with the sky for right now. So we've looked at the vertical position. The horizontal position, you can see we can move the sky around to the left or the right. And that may help based upon where, if there's like, for example, you can tell the light is coming from over here, but yet that doesn't match our subject. So you may want to change your horizontal position. And then we can take a look at our horizontal blending and see if that, you can see how it's kind of changing right in here above the line. And of course, you also have your flip version over here if you need to. Sometimes the sun's not where you want it to be. It's nice to be able to flip it around. The horizon position over here allows you to shift your horizon. So you can move this, and you see how we've kind of moved it down below this horizon. So we can move it over here again and pull it up. So you've got a couple of different tools that can help you make sure that that horizon line is just where it's supposed to be. I would actually use the horizon position shift rather than the vertical position to get the horizon line just right. And looks like I've gone over a little bit over here, so I might come back and bring that. And it turns out in this case, I think it got it fairly well. You can also rotate your sky a little bit. So sometimes maybe you need the sky to tilt this way. Maybe there is something in the sky that just needs that kind of tilt. And you can do it either direction. Who knows why? Maybe you've tilted your camera and you just need something to tilt. Either way, you can do that. I'm just double clicking to reset things back to where they were. Now, the place that I want to get to deal with some of this issue right here is kind of with the combination of mask refinement and also scene relighting. Sometimes a masking problem is actually a relighting problem, but you can go over here and click on Fix Details. Global will kind of be the global adjustment for these tools beneath it. You can close the gaps down, but that's not what's really going on over here. So I'll move that up and you'll see that it doesn't really take that away. What you want to do is change the scene relighting if you have a human in here, and you can change the saturation, but really what we're looking at is relight human, and that's kind of changing how we see our subject. And as you can see, as I pull this over, the AI did not detect that the water was not part of her. So it was kind of trying to leave her the same. As you relight the human, notice she's gone back into shade and it's matching with the scene and environment that we have here. And you can change the saturation. We can pull it up. We'll make the water a bit more purple because the sky is kind of purple. And you can also change the relight strength overall. And really you just tune that to what you want. But we had this masking problem here that, let me pull this back down so you can see it again. It just didn't fit. I mean, it thought this was part of the person because you can see her reflection down here. And all we really had to do was move one slider. And the masking worked really nicely. So we've gone over some mask refinements. I want to take a look at reflection now. I turned that all the way off. There's a couple of things here. One is the reflection amount. So you can bring this up and you can see to your taste how much of this sky you want to reflect in the water. And if you don't worry. The color from that can be all that you need. And that comes back in with our saturation. And then also, you may want to blur the water out because sometimes if your focus, let's say, is on the subject and the water needs to be a little bit blurry to match the sky that you put back there, you can go ahead and get a more realistic blur. So that kind of draws attention to your subject. Now, sky adjustments, again, since the water's blurry, if you want to defocus the sky, you can do that too. If you have grain in your photograph and the sky doesn't have it, you can add some grain. And I'm going to bring this way up. And it doesn't show terribly in here, but I think the idea of the grain is match the rest of the photograph that you have. There it is. My computer's just running a little bit slow. So even though I had pulled this all the way up and all the way back down, it just took my computer a while to think about it. Atmospheric haze is really just, you want to put a little bit of fog or mist or some kind of haze in the scene. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. One of the problems with the sky reflections in Luminar AI Update 2 was that you could warm up the sky and then the water would still be cool if that's the way it was in the first place. So now, when you change the warmth, if I warm up the sky, notice that it's also warming up the water. And if I cool down the sky, you're getting a cooler look in the water. In other words, the warmth in this reflection, or the sky adjustments, matches. It's going to have, if you're going to warm up the sky, it's going to warm up the water as well. So that's, I think, a nice little touch to add a little bit more reality here. And the same thing with brightness. You brighten up the sky, you brighten up the water. And it just means that you don't have to go try and do things like, another tool in order to make this match that. There are people who had some photographs where, unfortunately, you might have warmed up the sky and then you had this cool water that didn't match the reflection that was in it. So I think that this is working a lot better. And that's a lot of the changes to Sky AI. Now, one of the things I want to mention to you, if you've ever decided to put an object in the sky, let's get something like Mighty Eagle here. Objects in the sky from Augmented Sky AI do not appear in water reflection. So if you put something in here and suddenly this is sharp or everything's defocused back there, suddenly everything is, or it's not reflecting where it's supposed to be, that's basically a limitation. You cannot get a reflection of an object here. You can defocus it, so I can make the Mighty Eagle a bit blurrier, maybe too much there, but it's not going to show up in the water reflection. So if you put something from Augmented Sky in here, that's not going to work. So let's get rid of him. Now, when you're replacing skies, keep in mind, there's a couple of things. You can download more. So this is the marketplace that we talked about. And they are going to have a section over here for skies. They have templates. They have bundles. They have more templates, more sky objects. So in other words, if you're tired of eagles, maybe there's something else. Let's take a look. Fireworks. I love the idea of fireworks. Maybe you want a floating whale. I have no idea why you want whales in your sky or amazing planets, but those are available. Also, there is a membership, and I'm part of this membership, so you can see my account over here. And this is where you can get some things for free. So you'll see that I get new assets and tutorials delivered every month. So new assets for my next delivery date is June 20th. And I've got some tutorials over here. I can visit the classroom, see more. I have templates that I can download. So they offer templates, and those were no additional charge to me. And then, of course, there are some skies that are offered that are not included with Luminar AI, but if you join the membership, then that's part of it as well. Now, I'm not going to scroll down too far here, but what I am going to show is like there's a marketplace code, and I don't want to show you my code, but basically I also get a 15% discount on purchasing things from the marketplace. So if you've ever thought about joining Luminar X membership, then I believe my coupon code will work. And it's the same thing. If you buy something using my coupon code, send me the receipt. I'll give you Luminar AI elements for free. Okay, let's go back over and take a look at the software. And let me go back to the catalog. Let's go over here to edit. Another enhancement that they made was on dodge and burn, and also on the erase and the clone and stamp tool. So let's come down here to dodge and burn. So you can see now they've added a softness slider, and it starts off by default all the way up. As I move the slider over, you can see how the edge inside of that circle kind of gets tighter. So when I decide that I want to lighten something, let's say this, I'm going to hit the bracket key to kind of make this a little bigger. The edges are going to be a bit softer. And that just makes it easier to deal with not having something where you've got really hard edges and then you end up just kind of brushing everything and it doesn't look quite right. So the idea is that it's much easier to work with this. Also, the undo tools. I'm going to hit Command Z, and you can see that it's processing, and it just got rid of that. One of the complaints, I think, in the previous version, pretty much for the erase and the clone tools, were that undoing them was kind of a bit of a problem. So let's say we'll go over here, we'll select the source. Let's say this is the source that I want. I want to make this a little bit smaller. And if I click this, and then I decided I'm going to click that, I'm going to hold down my Option key and select another source. So let's say we got to get rid of that and that. All right, so if I wanted to get rid of things in the past, you almost had to stop the entire process and then go back and do it again without the mistake that you made. Well, now I can hit Command Z, and as you look inside of the photograph, the things that I clicked on for erase are starting to come back in. So all those little spots, it's much easier to, let's say, accidentally click something. So over here, I click this. I said, oops, I didn't mean to. I don't have to go back and hit apply anymore and then come back and undo it and all that. I just hit Command Z. And just as you would expect it to work, it comes back that way. So this works this way with the clone tool and also with the erase tool up here. So there's a little bit of an improvement made that way. As you would expect with any update, Luminar AI Update 3 also has some bug fixes, some for Mac, some for Windows, some for both platforms. I've got them on the screen here. I'm not going to read them off to you because I figure most people can just pause and look at that. But those are some of the bugs that were fixed. All of this is based upon your feedback to Skylum, and they are listening. I deal with a few different affiliates, and I got to tell you, I get more feedback and more support and help from Skylum than any other vendor. Some of them don't even talk to you. Skylum has regular meetings for its affiliates. They let us know what's going on. They listen to us, and they listen to their customers, and we see that in the updates that are coming out. So please, if you have feedback for Skylum, feel free to let me know in the comments if there's something you want me to pass along, and I'll be happy to do so. You can reach Skylum support directly and let them know, which is probably the best way to do it. But Skylum does listen, and then we see the results coming out later on in their enhancements. And that pretty much covers what I wanted to share with this release. I'm getting kind of vibes that there is another release forthcoming. One of the tools that Skylum's mentioned, and it's not in this version, is a Bokeh tool to help you out with that. I think what happened is they wanted to get support out for the M1 Macs because not only have some of those Macs been out for a while, but new Macs are probably on the horizon, and they wanted to get this release out. That doesn't mean that it'll be a long time before you get the next one. So I imagine it's probably not going to be too long before we see another update coming out with Bokeh AI and maybe some other bug fixes and enhancements that we didn't think of. Skylum seems to go through this iteration of continuous improvement. Things can always get better. So as they improve, we get better software. And these updates have been free, and I expect that they probably will continue to be free. So if you're a Luminar AI owner, I hope this is useful to you. If you like it, please go ahead, click the like button. If you have questions about any of these tools I've seen, let me know in the comments below. Also, tell me, what's your favorite thing here? Is it going to be the way Sky AI 2 works now? Is it really the dodge and burn tool, or maybe the erase and clone tools that have some easier updates in case you need to undo it? To me, that's going to be a really big one. Or is it just the speed performance? Or maybe if you've got an M1 Mac, finally you've got something that runs natively. Let me know what's important to you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'll see you again in the next video.